water and vultures will pick gold strides so they look just like skeletons. But the fact still remains that if this is a year later and the streets or the bill
Sounds like COVID to me. Healthcare expenses in the hundreds of billions. For every man that has died in war in 2024, 20 have died from ozone. it really hurts when you inhale ozone.
And then you look into the distance and you see the most fantastic antiquity, the palace. Some of them still intact but have taken damage, and the rest of the city it lies in ruins. So of course the victors are going to give their their interpretation of events. But if you do what I do and find the earliest photographs available, and then you look through them, questions start to arise. First question is how come this level of destruction? I can appreciate tens of thousands of British troops were involved, and I can appreciate that they had big cannons by 1850s, and they would have had high explosives too. So they would have maybe done this from constant bombardment and turned buildings into tiny little bricklets. And if you look at the buildings themselves, they're full of bullet holes. 1850s, there's not automatic weapons available. 1850s, it's still flintlock. That's load your gun, and then discharge your weapon, and then load it up again. But we have got fields now. Let's look at this flag that is on the field cannon. It's not a flag. Actually, it's not a very flag. It's just the size of the cannon. It's not a cannon at all. What that is, I don't know. And they're the cannonballs, the armament at the time. Little round balls, which they're shooting at this palace here. And the little round balls do that. This looks Moorish, quite clearly. soldier in there, so it's already fallen. Well, but that obviously, this is after the siege is ended and Caravan's got me. But the size and the scale of these buildings is unbelievable. Yeah, so they did all this destruction with little tiny balls. It gives you all these photographs here, mostly I have got to share with you, which will show you this was a beautiful city that is had this happen by little tiny chemicals. So as I said, official narratives, not really million people. Well, at the rest, apparently, after the rebellion itself, the British come into rule, and they do restrictions of shortages on food in India. The narrative won't tell you the complete truth, but they do admit that there was a huge famine, and they admit that millions died after the rebellion, caused by the rebellion. So there's no other way of looking at it, guys, okay? This was a reset. This was a British reset of India. And they took control to rule. This was built in. See, the British and the East India Company, interesting little wooden ladder, and took these usual looking Atlantic protect things. I've seen that on a building before. It's like sun rays, doesn't it? So yeah, devoid of population. Obviously, there's only a few people dotted around. I can only presume that the population in 1857 has been decimated. This looks like there's something under that mound. Something's all over the world. I think that a lot of the pyramids myself. Wow, 4 angels 10, and the endowment instead of tolerance. These rods. Wow, that is some old technology there. And see a dome stupa, that's it, protect on top. So yeah, the city itself is just lying in rubble. So let's just imagine that the official narrative that they give us for Lucknow Rebellion, the Sepoy Rebellion, is the cover story for the reset and destruction of India. And this city, Lucknow, is quite a mind blow again with the old Roman type arch. Again, in the side bits, windows have already been bricked up. So we're going to head on this. The British have built this less than 100 years earlier, and they put windows in, and they've already bricked them up, and it's all classical architecture in India. And then it's all destroyed by 1957. I think it's a reset. I think these photographs are telling us it's a reset. Look at the scale of destruction. Look at the holes. It used to be just ponds in it. If they're going to destroy the cannonballs, they'll pond it constantly from close. There's no range on them, on fields cannons at all. Hundreds of yards, and then it loses power, and then it just pings off its target to be closer to range. So it looks like there's a couple members of the Punjabi regiments that supported the British in Quell, and they slain a million rebels and their supporters. It is to say that they transfer in the narrative that, oh well, the thuggies, they were to blame for a lot of the attacks. It wasn't the British. Look at these, they look like speakers, don't they? Look at this architecture. Constantina, Lever and Constantina. So this is a Constantine. Lions, and these look like speakers. Nothing seems to be unscratched. The cannonball went through there. But that shows you, the cannonball went through this masonry. It doesn't splatter into tiny little bricklets. You'd have to shoot it a million times. Get it? don't get the narrative what they said. It's good enough for a building. It's not on the roof, you know, you get, if you look on top of the bell, you see four beams coming in and converging in the middle. You see them on top of roofs, you see them in great expositions. I think they focal from the chi energy of the building. I think of it as one of these old, amazing buildings. Like I said, I'm guessing we could attribute the Moguls who were in power to building some of this. I'm sure the Indians are fine builders, but definitely under the British bequester. So yeah, there's nothing in the city, no people, no roads, no infrastructure, yet they got these buildings. Anybody? Just mud outside, you don't see any roads, you know, these are supposed to be built with horse and cart. So get the quarry together first. Get the quarry together. Get the Nelson's Column in the middle of the lake, which is in the middle of the city. It's for sure classical looking. A landing platform for an all blue maybe. And look at that palace in the background scale. Okay. And just one or two people around the kid there, and the city itself is just justified laying with skeletons. Now, I can't get my head around how quick, and then their bodies turned into skeletons, because if these are 1857 and the rebellion of Lucknow was a year before in 1856, or the slaying of all these people in 1856, then how a year later when they're taking photographs, they are already skeletons? It was just the heat. Look at that. Whoa. I wonder what these wires are for in 1850s. Because there is no wireless communication or things like that as such happening. Telegraph, but that is it. And another aerial too. Curious, no radio in this period. The aerial's always fun. So yeah, classical building with some crazy Indian influence here. You can even see this tower looks like Italy. Yeah, it's Italian. You've got the burning pot thing going on. You see on Venetian buildings, low windows. This looks like an older world that has been captured by the British and reset. Look at it. Just mud and then that building. Just mud and that building. How does that make any sense? How does that even make sense to get something that big? And look what the cannonry did to this poor city. Unfortunately, named, isn't it, Lucknow. Like, got to rethink that. They got an unbelievable city wall as well. Look at that. It's like Rajasthan's wall. But the rest of it outside is tiny little bricklets and frames of buildings. Maybe they just weren't as solid as the palaces. Fine buildings, like the thing that should be in Venice. This is not actually in Venice. It's in Lucknow. And we've got the Phoenician band in church here. It looks like it should be. In San Marco Square, and you've got the troops here, the British troops, with their guns, and this building has been peppered by cannonry, but again, they just make holes in the building stands, but it looks a solid building, but that still raises the question of whether buildings end up dustified, like they say, by cannonballs. Oh my God, look at this building. Oh my. Imagine what's in them little boxes of discs. That one took a bullet. They tried shooting it. They knew the old technology. Do you know, like little discs? What's this? You know, this is not aesthetics, guys, is it? It doesn't look very aesthetic. It looks very space agey, excuse the term. Is that an oil lamp on top? I thought you would go out there like that. The dome itself is massive, you can see that, and various entrances into it. Curious temples, these temples. And the rest are just presumes canonry underneath. These are definitely built by what looks like flat red brick. And flat red brick you could attribute to Rome because they use flat red brick. And the, again, window tax in India. Why are they blocking up windows all over activity? So yeah, these are the earliest photographs available anywhere. Because I have searched down why people come earlier than this. 6 photography. It's only been around apparently for like 15 years max, so it's quite interesting that there's no problems with fuzzing unless people are just sitting absolutely standing absolutely still. But these are for 1856. Exceptionally good photograph quality as HD really. See on walls. What it does is a staircase. Anyway, very curious indeed. The wet patch there, we haven't peeping at some buildings, taking on that construction. So, oh, this is the palace, one of the palaces. Lucknow has Moorish Phoenician theme. There's no doubt about that. And it's big, like the giants, and it's beautiful. And it is brimming with antiquity, would you say? Just looking at these statues. Now this building looks like it survived it, but outside dust and rubble. And it looks like, to be honest with you guys, the dust and rubble looks ancient. You know, it looks packed for the time. I'm not sure that official narrative makes any sense to me. It probably reset it, changed the government, killed 10 people. The official million is woefully. I would say that this, what we're witnessing here, was the real Holocaust. Again, all that shitty infrastructure, nothing. So you know, can you get your head around that they built that building and they dragged all the materials on mud and there was no roads per se, or no, you know, pavements, lamp posts, or anything like that. Just brimming with ancient antiquity, poor angel technology. This thing. Beautiful. And it was Moorish. Look at the detail. So they put some scaffolding up here, really rudimentary wooden poles, but look at this. All pouring down. So yeah, the city was, look at that bit of antiquity. The city was brimming with these beautiful palaces, but look, outside the palace, just dirt. Just dirt. That makes no sense. Makes no sense to me. Delhi, same story, same period. These are the earliest photographs available of Delhi, which became New Delhi, and it is like Lucknow, jam-packed with this unusually amazing architecture, okay, in what looks like an ancient wasteland. That's what I can't get my head around. These are supposed to be populated places. And sieges drag on for nearly 2 years until it's quelled, and all of it, no people left to fight anymore. I don't know what happened, but that looks like what's happening, guys. It's 2 people. got a little sidewalk going on in Delhi, but again, dirt road going on. So these are in Delhi, you can see here bullet holes in that apartment there. And again, these Venetian style architectural rooms. This looks like a little bit of New Orleans, doesn't it? The New Orleans is very Moorish. So there's an ancient performance, isn't it? Beyond there, nothing but. If you've got wilderness and fields, it's very flat. And then you've got all this really ancient dark stone, beautifully dressed stone. If you mad up on it, it looks like really well fitted stone. And whoever that civilization is completely decimated. But you can see that Delhi was once a very fine place, full of gardens. The gardens that they had in this period have overgrown because there's no people left.
Yes, you're right. That ozone in certain conditions can be lethal to all forms of life. Ozone kills everything.
Is what it looks like. This is Delhi with people.